Hello, hello, hello. Oh, this microphone's going all dodgy. Half asleep after that one, I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie. Well, if I could go back, in my day, right, where we all used to play in the streets, nobody locked their doors. No. But if I were to make the point to my younger self who grew up during the Ferguson era that Manchester United would ever look as bad as they did today, it would be totally inconceivable. Look, wonderful. Spurs won. First time we've done the double over United since the 89-90 season. But how bad are they, man? How bad are they? I'm not I don't want you to think I'm being negative about this, but I don't think Spurs were particularly good today. I don't think we were actually very good at all. It was a scrappy game. It was a horrible game. But they were disgusting. How have they fallen so far? How have Manchester United fallen so far? The reason why I'm doing the sort of nostalgia thing at the top, saying, if you'd have told my young self, is like, I'm not trying to say this in like a snobby way or anything to anybody that wasn't there, because either you weren't into football at that point, you weren't old enough, or whatever. But I think, and please, anyone else in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but who was there? Same age as me. I'm 39 for now, right? So if you're a similar age to me and you grew up watching Manchester United, you would say that as good as, say, Chelsea have been at times, as good as Manchester City are now, I don't think anybody has felt quite as just impenetrable as Manchester United used to back in the day. Manchester United were just, there was such a constant. They were such a constant in terms of just how good they were, how high the bar was set for, just like it is with Madrid now. Like, it doesn't surprise you when Madrid win the Champions League. And Manchester United they've won how many times they won the European Cup? 3 times, I think. 3 times, 4 times. They've done it a few times, but they've never been that sort of force of nature like Real Madrid are, but they were always England's equivalent to that. They were just, it seemed impossible. It seemed absolutely impossible that they would ever not be the best team going. They might have the odd year when somebody, won the league instead of them. Chelsea came along with all their money, and it started to shift things a bit. Arsenal had their little moment in the sun with Arsene Wenger, who was obviously a sensational, rivalry aside, was obviously a sensational coach. He had an incredible group of players there. So Arsenal, spoiled the party a couple of times, but still, Manchester United were default setting. Manchester United were final boss. They are a horrific side. They are horrific. Horrific. They were there for the taking today. Absolutely there for the taking. And if Spurs were in a better place themselves, I dare say we would have put them to the sword more comprehensively. I'm delighted with the win. I'm not going to complain about that at all. I'm just simply making the case that I don't think Spurs were particularly good, and we still got a result over Manchester United. The commentary, they wanted to beg the idea. Sky Sports, never. But they wanted to try and beg this idea that United was somehow getting back into the game and they were having spell. They did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. Just a horrible, horrible. I mean, that was, honestly, I was falling asleep almost in that game. That was a tough watch. That was not a pretty game of football whatsoever. But as we've been crying out for, Those are the games that Spurs need to start winning, and we have done. We've done that today. The last game against Brentford in the Premier League, anyway. Last game against Brentford was fantastic performance. It was a brilliant performance. That really really good. Today was dogged. Today we sort of dug in and got the job done, didn't we? Um, but I know this is a Spurs podcast, but I almost I just feel like I'm so it's just blown. It honestly has blown my mind quite how bad Man United are. Like I can't quite fathom it, and I guess you don't really see it until your team is playing, unless you watch them week in week out. You don't really appreciate it as much when, as bad as Spurs have been this season, and as much as games like the Everton game not long ago, where I was thinking Everton are going to get back into this, we're actually maybe going to lose this. This is this is. I mean, we were definitely going to lose that game, but Leicester at home, another one, right? Where it felt dodgy. I didn't feel any peril. I didn't feel any peril today from Manchester United. None whatsoever. I'll be honest with you. Like I want to be buzzing off of that, but and I am on a certain level. I think in the next few days it will settle in, and I will be really really delighted with the fact that we've done the double over Manchester United, a side that have routinely turned up and done the business over Spurs. But right now, my main thing is, well, we should have won that game, and we did, and that's good. It's good that we dug in and we got the 3 points. We need that climbing back up the table again. Everton have been picking up a few results. West Ham are sort of indifferent, aren't they? But a few of those teams that were around us, Palace and everything, are in sort of up and down form. So if we can start to just get a few more wins, stop the rot of, I think it was 7 straight home games without a win, 5 losses, 2 draws. I think it was. I was reading the stats before the game on Patreon. Patreon.com/RTR pod. We can actually listen to the pods ad free now. It's 2 different tiers. There's one tier with extra podcasts and stuff, and there's another one where you can just listen to it ad free. It's cheaper. Go and have a look. Support the show, please. Thank you. But I was talking beforehand, and when I was saying that about the stats, I was surprised by the idea that Spurs had not won at home for 7 home games consecutively, that I thought it must have meant across the entire season. But it didn't. It was 7 consecutive games in which Spurs have faltered at home, lost most of those games, and to put an end to that against Manchester United is no mean feat, even if this is a particularly despicable Manchester United team. It was not a vintage performance from Spurs. Look, I'm happy with the win, but I'm not going to sit here and say we were magnificent. We were very good. We were very professional. We went about our job properly. I'll talk about the players individually in a moment because I've got quite a bit to say about different players and such. But good performance? No, not good performance. No, I mean not a bad performance, is it? It's not a bad performance, but it's not a great performance. Man United is just terrible, but we got the job done. So maybe that does qualify as a good performance. I'm happy to see Spurs winning games. Baz O'Brien says 2 more wins, I reckon, and we'll stay up. Yeah, I reckon so, mate. I like podcasts says toughed out a win. I'll take it. Son looks like he's lost a step. You could see how much more dynamic the team was going forwards once he was subbed off. Yeah, there's probably a few awkward conversations to be had about Son in terms of how much we play him or not. But I think the idea that we go from Son being one of the best players in our team to let's sell him, get rid of him, I think we need to find that balance in there. I think the balance that we need to struggle. I'm not saying you're doing this. I like podcasts. Just talking about Spurs fandom in general. We need to probably find that balance where we're like, Sonny is a super sub now. Sonny is an impact player. And I reckon we'd probably start to see a really, really good version of Sonny again if we manage his minutes. And it's been hard to do that, hasn't it? With the state of the injuries and all that type of thing. There's still a player though, and he's an important figure at the club. So, you know, Grant Echo Sonic, some bad finishing from us, but we did what we needed to do. Adam Harris says we were poor too, sloppy. Darren says I've only ever known Man United to be like this. To be fair, I mean that's just wild. It's what I mean. It is what it is, isn't it? But that's it's wild. Adam also says apparently Man United are favourites for the Europa League. I can kind of see that. I can see that just because they still win trophies. They still have a habit of winning stuff. They won the Europa League however long ago it was Mourinho was in charge. Probably coming up to 10 years now, which is kind of wild. But they still get stuff done, don't they? They still win stuff. And part of that is probably because they've still got a scary name, especially to European sides. And I know football in the Premier League, it doesn't take place in some kind of bunker where no information gets out. I'm fully aware that European teams will be able to look on the form of Manchester United, look on the performances and results of Manchester United and say, they're not quite the Manchester United they used to be. However, they still carry with them. There's a bit of fear factor there. What I'll say is, as much as all I'm saying here, right, as about Manchester United being terrible, or as bad as I've ever seen them, what I would say is, I wouldn't want to meet them in the Europa League final. I wouldn't want to, because I think it's different. I think tournament football and everything is different. I want to see them get locked out by Leon or someone like that in the quarterfinals. I wouldn't want to face Manchester United in the final of the Europa League. And I reckon there's probably quite a few other clubs that feel the same way. Llama All Sports says, enjoyed having Vicario back. Don't listen to the nonsense. He's a very, very good keeper. I do think he's a very, very good keeper. The only thing I will say is that I did notice today is he does get bullied in the air. And I hate it. I hate it because I know that's what Neville said. And I was really triggered by that at first. And maybe there's an air of confirmation bias about it. But I can't help but feel that when Kinski came into goal, we suddenly saw a keeper that could just challenge for balls in the air, sort of swat out an aerial threat for the most part, aside from when he's not doing those weird punches. And that kind of went away again with Vicario. But what we do have with Vicario is a much more assured presence in goal overall. A number of the saves he pulled off today were very, very good. And you might not have backed Kinski to pull those off just on what we've seen of Kinski after his initial game against Liverpool. I'm very glad to see Vicario back. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. And overall, I agree with you, Lama, that I think he is a good keeper. Jordan Emmett says, I thought Bentancur was actually quite good today. I'm also a fan of Tell just shooting. Why not? PG says, it's quite astonishing how bad United are. Neville and Keane's fault, as United needed a full rebuild, but the focus meant they kept opting for sticking plasters rather than the full surgery. It's a very good point, mate. And that's why, do you know what? I've got to say, one thing I've noticed now for Mr. What Won't I Say? I'm Roy Keane, I'm Wellard me. And do you know what? I find him quite funny. I find him quite charming at times, Roy Keane. I've said it before, but in some ways, not so much the persona, but in some ways, some of his opinions, the way he puts them forwards, he reminds me of my dad just a bit. Sort of somewhere between Souness and Roy Keane. But what Roy Keane has done the past few years, to PG's point, is that Roy Keane has always been a Manchester United man. He's always been a Man United man. And now that they're shite, and everyone's going on at Manchester United and giving him digs and all this type of thing. He's suddenly a Spurs fan, and he's suddenly not a Man United fan, and he suddenly doesn't care about Man United's results and all that type of thing. I think there's probably a shred of truth in what he was saying, in so much as he doesn't support Man United like somebody on the terraces where it ruins their weekend if United don't win. I get that, but I think he's got more of a soft spot for them than he lets on. It's because he doesn't want all the blowback of how terrible they are. That's just my take on it. Dwayne 3, United can't score against Ben Davis at centre back. This is embarrassing. I mean, people don't. I've been getting some pelters for my Ben Davis defences, but Ben Davis is a good centre back. Dwayne, I've got to say it, mate. Like I think he's a very good player. He's always been a very reliable player. Brian Park says the younger generation now will have only seen Manchester United as a laughing stock, which is crazy. I agree. It really is quite strange. It's just, as I was saying, like you just can't you can't make the point enough quite how good they were. Adam Harris says Spence right back for England in USA 26. I'm going to talk about Jed Spence in a minute. Big time. Zeros and ones, some quite poor football from both teams, if we're fair. Oh, Man United, love me. My name's Zeros and Ones. Oh, Man United, love me. Just dig Man United out, mate, all right? So it's what your function is. Call them frauds, you called them washed, you called them dusty ballers, all that, right? Clapped, washed, nothing. What are they cooking? They've burnt it. That's what they're doing, mate. Yeah. Awful. Spurs were not great, but we still, do you know what I mean? Imagine not beating this Tottenham side at home. Bin Guy says we don't have a final third passer like Prime Ericsson. No, we'll talk about James Maddison in a bit because that's probably the closest thing we have to that, isn't it? Ben French, Coys, Jed is amazing. Yes, he is, mate. I agree very much. Billy says tell worries me. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about tell in a bit. I know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. My point is, off of that performance today, yeah, I think it wasn't a great performance, but you know, I'll chat about him when I do the players and stuff. William Gardner, we have 13 league games left. If we win them all, we'll finish with as many points as the sixth place team last season, Chelsea. Coys, love that, mate. Love that. And that's not bad, is it? I mean, we're not going to win. We're not going to win every single game, but we can win a lot of them. If we finish up, we end up. I mean, there's a bit of a jump now. It'll be a few weeks before we can move up any more places. Brentford 4 points ahead of us. We should get the Premier League table up. So yeah, you got Brentford on 34 points. Then after that, you got Brighton on 37 points. Villa on 38. So we've slipped off the pace quite considerably, really. 13 points behind Chelsea in sixth. And I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I've seen a few Spurs fans almost celebrating this in a way. Say, yeah, well, we won't have Europe next year, which nah, man. You can't think that way. You can't you can't be doing this whole thing of saying like and just building something here. We're gonna build this dynasty, we're gonna be a big project, and then try and kind of squirm out of playing in European competition because that's what big teams do. You have to manage all of that, right? You have to have the pressure on the ownership and everything. And well done to everybody that showed up for that protest today. Unbelievable. The scenes, the scenes that are all over social media are unbelievable. Um, and that pressure is kept up by us being in Europe and us needing more players in the squad, needing us to have a stronger squad, and also just Tottenham being in more competitions, Tottenham playing in Europe. It's a privilege. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be playing European football. We should never take it for granted, ever. Because it might, I've said it on here before, but it might go away for a long time. We might, you don't know, we might have a decade of seasons like this. We may well do. So never, we don't, I don't know. Just be careful what you wish for. Ben Austin, unpopular opinion, we would be a lot better without Son. I don't know. Tot One Ham says, first half we were good, second half not so much. Ryan Trail, Odeberg coming on and instantly beating his man was glorious. Owen Lawrence, after wanting a gutsy 1-0 win for ages, it finally happened, and I was pinching my helmet for 30 minutes straight. 5-0 next time, please. Anyone that doesn't know, that's Ricky. Ricky from the Fighting Cock will say, when he's nervous, when he's in situations with Tottenham, he'll pinch a certain part of his appendage, like his anatomy, and it resonated with a lot of people who feel, when you're a kid and like things annoy you and you just, you're kind of grinding your teeth and curling your lips up and all that sort of thing. It's a bit like that, I think. Tom Tom Hayward says, I'm quite confident we didn't just watch the Europa League winners in that match. Yeah, I think that's I don't know. Don't be so negative, Tom. Don't be so negative, all right? Manchester United could go on and win it. Ha 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 ha. Matt Scally, hope not by nature as well. It's all going to work out with a white heart emoji. Yeah, I mean, depends on what you mean by working out, mate. But let's hope so. Did you see that? There was a tweet that did massive numbers in the week. I can't remember who did it, and I'm going to butcher like their point, but it was after our loss to Villa, and they were basically saying to think it was only a few years ago that on the same weekend that Aston Villa were playing a championship playoff, we were playing in a Champions League final, and now they're knocking us out of a cup competition, which is kind of stark and kind of sad, but also shows you how quickly things can change in football. So, and much to my point that I've been blithering on about throughout the entirety of this podcast so far, is that Manchester United were once an unstoppable force of nature and now look very much like, don't know, a fart that somebody's captured in a biscuit tin, right? There's just not much to them. So if you want to flip that on its head, maybe Spurs can go on and just have a dinner. Who knows? I say we might have 10 years of not finishing in European places. We might have 10 years of winning the lot, winning the absolute lot, time and time and time again. That'd be good, wouldn't it? That would be nice. Um, Should I do let's do the players. I think I'm going to do the players because I don't think there's an awful lot to talk about with this game. It was a dogged, horrible, miserable affair, but we came out on top. Just having a look at the stats. 57% of the possession, 88% pass accuracy, nice, of 519 passes, 22 shots, 7 on target. Wallop. Wham bam, thank you, Man United. Let's do the players. Giuliano Vicario. Welcome back. Welcome back, my friends. He commands his box. He's got that experience. he's big, he's rangy, he's very agile. He pulls off some incredible reflex saves. I know it was a huge talking point for Sky Sports for ages that I got really triggered by. But having watched Kinski and then watching him again, I do think he does get quite bullied in the air. I think there were a couple of moments when he did a couple of things somewhat inexplicably, like dropped the ball or didn't try to claim it once or something. I don't know. It was just a bit erratic, but he's been out for a while. First game back, cut him a bit of slack. Overall, a great performance from him. Good player. Glad to have him back. He is our number one. Fantastic. Jed Spence. Jed Spence, Jed Spence, Jed Spence. Let's talk about Jed Spence. To think, to think we had this fella out on loan this time last year. To think this fella pretty much occupied a similar place in the Tottenham Hotspur psyche as Sergio Reguilon, some bloke we signed once and it didn't work out. Apparently got an attitude problem or whatever. Jed Spence. I mean, like you might feel like overstating this a bit, but I honestly feel like I feel like he's not only one of our best players, but in terms of in that position in the league, I struggle to think of many players who are miles better than him. It's actually quite wild. It's almost a bit like, and I don't just say this for hyperbole. Remember when Harry Kane? There was a lovely go listen to it if you haven't listened to it yet. The View from the Lane, the Athletics podcast. They did a for Valentine's Day. They did a podcast that was all about the things you love about Tottenham. There's been so much negativity and all that type of stuff. Let's do a podcast about all the things that there are to love about Tottenham. Nice idea. They pulled it off really well. And they were talking about Harry Kane and they were talking about his rise and what it was like to witness that. And one of the things with Harry Kane is, if you remember, like when he started to build up that momentum, when he started to get more and more games in the team, I think we were all waiting, like obviously opposition fans were waiting with bated breath for the wheels to fall off. But I think many of us in the back of our heads were waiting for the wheels to fall off, to come off of it, right? Of the Harry Kane thing. I remember sort of, in his first season, sort of being like, let's calm down a bit, right? You know, if he even goes on to have a Tottenham career that is as good as somebody like Peter Crouch, he will have done magnificently well. But with every game that came, it felt like nothing phased Harry Kane whatsoever. And game after game after game, it looked like he got better, he got more assured, and it was just difficult to spot the weaknesses in his game. Until I think it probably culminated in that New Year's Day fixture against Chelsea at White Hart Lane, when it was just like, this is beyond doubt now. This kid is a player. He is unbelievable. And there's an echo of that for me with watching Jed Spence right now. Because Jed Spence has come into the team in fairly similar circumstances to those that Harry Kane came into the team. A Tottenham side that's struggling, a Tottenham side with several senior players who are, you know, maybe not living up to expectations, shall we say? Injury crisis, form is terrible. And then Jed Spence gets his opportunity. He got his chance. And then the first few games, he clearly grabbed that opportunity and looked unbelievable, looked brilliant. And I think most of us were like, great, but keep it up, right? Keep those performances up and then we'll start talking. I think we've officially arrived at the now we're talking moment, right? With Jed Spence. Because every single time I watch this guy, I'm just sat there. I'm in awe. Honestly, I find it hard to see any weaknesses in his game. And I've gone on about this on here before, but he's the complete package. He is the absolute complete package. Technically sound, physically sound, mentally, he's tenacious. He's always playing on the front foot. It seems like he's got an engine on him. He doesn't tire at all. He's up and down the wing all game. Defensively, he's brilliant. Offensively, he's brilliant. Like I can't believe this is a player that I think we gave, was it Genoa we sent him on loan to? I think honestly, I think they had something like a 6-7 million euro option on him or something and passed up on it. It's almost a bit like when we were going to sell Gareth Bale to Birmingham City for like £1 million. Jed Spence, he's a revelation. He's one of the best players in our side. He's one of the best players in the side. He's our best fullback. He's better than Porro and he's better than the doggy. He is. I will comfortably say that. I would go as far as say I think he's miles better than the pair of them. I think a doggy's very good though. I think a doggy's not shown his best this year because he's been injured and everything. But Doggy and Spence in years to come, I mean, please, right? But I kind of pinch myself a bit watching Jed Spence because he's in first name on the team sheet territory for me. A truly, truly brilliant player, I think. And yeah, magnificent. Ben Davis, as ever, Mr. Reliable. Another look. Ben Davis starts another clean sheet for Tottenham. Say what you want about him, but that seems to be quite a recurrent theme. Tottenham looking defensively more sound when Ben Davis plays. Just saying. Kevin Danso, I really, really hope, because he's come off and Sky seemed to think he was injured. I really hope it's not a bad injury because I really like the look of Danso. I really like the look of him. It suddenly shows you that this system really relies on players like him with those type of attributes. I think he's kind of similar to Mickey van der Ven in many ways. Big, tall, rangy, strong, fast, fearless. Very good at timing his tackles to ground. Really, really good. Really, really good. With his slide tackles, with his last ditch tackles. He pulled one off today. I can't remember who it was that broke through. Probably Xerxes. I think it was who pulled through and he just got back and slid in and nicked the ball off him. I really like him. I really, really like him. And it shows you, like, doesn't it? It shows you that good, solid defenders are worth their weight in gold, right? We've sort of really been lacking just good, solid, efficient defenders, and I think Danso looks like that personally. Um, really like him. Really, really positive signing. I think Pedro Porro. I don't. I was going to say I don't think he did much wrong, but today again I kept seeing that pocket of space open up behind him, and as much as I think the temptation is to blame Ange for that, it seems to be consistently on Porro's watch. Every time Porro's in that position, there's just that pocket there. I don't know if he's just not alert enough to the danger. I don't know if he's not making enough of an effort to get back when he commits himself so far forwards, or if he just doesn't have that awareness to, release the ball before he does go and create that pocket. But he seems to be constant with him. There's always that pocket in the defense. I mean, maybe it is Ange telling him to do that, but I don't know. But an okay performance. I think he whipped in a few decent balls today ish. He was always a bit of a nuisance for United in the offensive sort of half, in their half. So look, we'll take it. James Maddison, nice finish, alert to the finish, shushing the camera and all that. Fair enough. Didn't really do much else, but he's back from injury. I was saying pre-match, I was hoping that he could be that sort of missing piece for us somewhat. Even though I do dig him out quite a bit, he's got a skill set that I don't think anybody else in our squad has. And yeah, I don't think it was a particularly outstanding performance today. I think the goal aside, I don't think he did an awful lot to really shut Roy Keane up. Roy Keane's criticism basically was James Maddison doesn't really give Spurs that much of a lift. But look, I'll get off his case. He's just come back from injury. He scored the winning goal today. Fair play to him. Let's not, turn this into my feelings about James Maddison and backing up Roy Keane. Rodrigo Bentancur was said to me in the comments earlier that they thought he had a fantastic performance. I don't think it was fantastic, but I thought he was okay. Kept things ticking over. Fine. All right. Lucas Bergvall, actually quite quiet today. I imagine he's probably a bit tired, but a quiet performance from him. Um, he did he get booked at one point? I don't know if he did get booked today. I think he came close to getting booked. He had one of those moments where he just kind of threw himself into a tackle, and I think the ref told him to calm it down a bit. And then he did calm it down from there, but maybe a bit too much. He's a young player. I think he's a very talented player. He's still finding his feet. This is all a learning process for him, right? And let's just see. Let's see where he goes. Don't need to make any huge judgments on him. Son Heung-min, not particularly great performance today, as many people are alluding to in the comments. I think we need to have a bit of grace with Son and just realize that he's probably quite tired. He's one of the more senior members of the squad. And if we now, with Odeber, with Johnson back, start to afford Sonny a bit more rest, allow him to maybe come on in games as opposed to starting games, have an impact, might be the way to go. Dejan Kulusevski was kind of anonymous today. He has been a bit. I don't want to say a passenger because I think he did. What is it? He did provide an assist in the Brentford game, so he's not been a passenger, but he's not been quite his controlling, complete warrior-like self for the past few games. I just think, quite simply, he's knackered. I just think he's tired. His game is at the best. Yeah, his game really requires a tremendous amount of physicality. He puts so much effort into every single performance, and I reckon he's just probably knackered. So look, fine. Decky's a great player. We know he's a great player. So there's no alarm bells there. Matthias Tell. I thought in the first half he looked quite bright. I thought in the first half he was pressing quite well. I thought his movement looked quite sharp. And I quite liked that about him. I think he definitely faded as the game went on. I think he got more frustrated as the game went on. I also think we probably need to give ourselves that reminder that he's 19 years old and he doesn't have that much experience yet, right? And I think that kind of shows a little bit. I don't think his decision making was always the best today. I think his shooting looked a little bit suspect is too harsh a word, but I just think today it wasn't that crisp, it wasn't that clean. I think really Once Solanke's back, Solanke starts there, right? And Tell comes on into games to make a bit of an impact. I think he looks like a fine enough young player. I kind of just get the feeling. No, I'm not. I'm not good. No, I'm not. That's his Premier League debut. He's played 3 games for us so far, 3 and a bit or so. Let's just wait and see. We don't need to plot his future out yet. I think one thing I will say though, that I was quite surprised by, simply because I'd been told so much that he was really quick. I don't think he's that quick. I don't actually think he's that fast. There were a couple of moments when there were breaks on for him, and he didn't exactly like eat up the turf in front of him, on and stretch Manchester United's quite poor, quite cumbersome De Ligt and Maguire defence all that much at all. Um, he's not actually, I would say, like physically quite as explosive as you would want him to be. I know it really feels like I'm digging him out a lot, and I don't mean it to be. I think he seems like quite an exciting young player, but he seems really quite young, and he seems really, at least today, he seemed not quite there yet. That's what I say. But he's 19. He's 19. He's moved to a new country. He's in a new culture. I don't know how good his English is or not. So let's cut him some slack. He's a kid at the end of the day. So that's fine, right? Who came on? Eve Basuma, I thought was good. I thought Eve was good when he came on. Archie Gray didn't really have much time. Brennan Johnson, with a sort of Brennan Johnson-y performance when he came on. Wilson Odobert, I thought actually looked quite bright when he came on. I was sort of scoffing the other week at the suggestion that he could be a bit of a game changer when he comes back from injury. But maybe he could be. He looked really nice. And perhaps are like, yeah, not fine. Not much time at all though on the pitch, really. I'm just seeing if we've got any more comments in here as I've been saying this. Samuel Vidler says 2 clean sheets in the league. Ange Ball. We've beaten United 3 times this season. We will lose to them in Europa League final. Darren Kilban says we need to drop Porro. He's so bad defensively. We need Spence at right back and a doggy at left back. And Darren says, imagine how good Spence will be at right back. Yeah. Adam Philip Odobert looked lively in his cameo. Bevlar, boring game, but a win is a win. Agree. Look, I think that's quite enough today. Spurs have beaten Manchester United. We've done the double over Man United. We've done the double over Man United. We should be happy about that. And I am happy about that. That's good. It's nice. It didn't feel like quite the occasion, did it? Because Manchester United are a horrible, horrible football team right now. But nonetheless, we did it. And now we don't have another game until Saturday, the 22nd of February, away at Portman Road, Ipswich. That'll be nice, won't it? A relegation 6-pointer. Are we still in that? I don't think we're still in that conversation, are we? Fingers crossed. Would be nice to beat them, though, wouldn't it? Just to make it doubly sure. As I said halfway through this podcast, if you enjoy the pods, if you enjoy the streams, then please consider supporting the show on Patreon, patreon.com/rtrpod. I now have a secondary tier, which basically allows you to listen to the pods ad-free. So if you want to support the show just a bit, but not that much because your circumstances dictate that you can't, then please maybe consider doing that. And then you get to listen to the pods without any adverts. If you want a bit more, if you want some preview pods, if you want some kind of midweek pods and things like that, then you can subscribe to the full Patreon experience. But that's patreon.com/rtrpod. You'll get podcasts on there. You'll get videos before I put them anywhere else. Lots of other things I'm sure you've seen. I hope you've seen. I've started remaking a few little animations. I'll do them as and when I get some ideas. You can see those on my YouTube, youtube.com/trunk. Appreciate if you do watch those, just to give them a like and everything like that within YouTube itself. Let more people see them. Any more begging for me to do today? If you are listening to the pods, please leave a rating. Please leave a review. I'm constantly told by Ricky from the Fighting Cock via his Lads Anonymous pod that you should put auto download on because that helps podcasts. I don't know why, but apparently it does. So do that, please. Anything else? Any more? Yeah, like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Ratings, reviews, please. Thank you very much. Share the pod, do all that stuff. Thanks for tuning in. We've done the double over Manchester United. Let's enjoy the rest of our weekends. Come on, you Spurs, up the Spurs. Much love.